Well, welcome back to our course, Writing 242 Technical Communication. This is the second lecture in this area where we're looking at planning and doing research. And so the last chapter, what we talked about was how we can think like an entrepreneur. And so that's the first thing. And so first of all, you need to come up with those ideas. And now we want to be figuring out how we're going to be selling those ideas. And so for this chapter, we're going to be talking about how to be persuasive. And so maybe you've had some successes doing that. You've had some friends, colleagues, or mentors that maybe have pointed the way for you. Let's think about that in more detail. So in this chapter, we will learn how to use reasoning to support your views with logic, examples, and evidence. So you go to a decision maker, they're going to need to have the evidence and why they should invest in what you're proposing to them. You will use values to appeal to common goals and ideals while using language that is familiar to your readers. So once again, we need to be thinking about who is going to be reading the material, the motivational, the persuasive type of information. This is going to all be things that we're going to be impacting the type of genre. And we need to be thinking about who is, or maybe a particular type of reader that you would be focusing on. Persuade people to say yes to your ideas. You want to give them the information so they can say yes. And understand how persuasion works in high context cultures. So let's get into more details about persuading with reasoning. So we can be thinking about reasoning with logic, using logically constructed statements such as if we do this, then we're going to have this. If we take these steps, then within 1 year, we will have a first prototype of an iPhone. Either we need to be doing this or we need to be doing that. So you could start to be showing that there are decision points that you need to be making, the cause and effect. If we don't act now, the effect is that we will start to lose market share. What are the costs and the benefits? We need to invest up front in order to derive the benefit of having increasing market share, opening up a new market, being in the front of new technology and whatever it is. And then talking about better and worse. What are the things where we can be improving on? What are the things that we need to maybe shore things up? There could be multiple ways we can be addressing that. So that's the first thing, as we talked about reasoning with logic, reasoning with examples and evidence. Show your readers real or realistic support for your claims. For example, here is an example of what was done by an innovative company and how it really impacted their bottom line. Talk about experiences and observations. There were winners in the cell phone market. The BlackBerry was quite innovative in its day, and then the iPhone completely changed how things were working. Give facts and data. What would be your projected return on investment? What are examples of why you came to the conclusion this is something that we should be working on now? And having quotes from experts is always helpful, that somebody that is in the market, that is in a place where they can be giving some higher level strategic guidance, that is also a great way to be thinking about that. In terms of persuading with values, we use values to appeal to the common goals and ideals while using language that is familiar to your readers. So persuading with values, values-based persuasion can be more subtle than reasoning-based persuasion. So this is another area that we want to be able to leverage. Values-based persuasion is effective because people prefer to say yes to someone who holds similar values and benefits. And so you're trying to show an allegiance with values and beliefs with your reader and ultimately the decision makers that you're trying to contact for this type of area. So you want to appeal to goals and ideals. Use your reader's profile to determine goals, needs, shared values, and attitudes, and find those commonalities. And from that, it's going to make your presentation or whatever type of form of media that you're using go a lot smoother. You want to be framing the issues from the reader's perspective. Framing is locating one or two words or phrases that characterize your reader's perspective on the issue. Use mapping to see how the reader frames the issue. So you need to be doing your homework to make sure you're in touch with that. Use your readers don't. You can do some reframing. If your reader does not see an issue in any way that's compatible, if you reframe the issue, you can use mapping after you locate a common value that appeals to your readers. So you're leading them down the trajectory where you want them to be seen, where you're going with your plan, your idea, and the timeline that you come up with. So getting someone to say yes, 10 strategies to help convince decision makers to make the final step is number one, decrease the number of options. So make it a manageable number of options. Tell people their prior belief were correct. So you're reinforcing them. You want to be creating an impression of scarcity. So there is room in the marketplace that we can definitely do what we're proposing. You ask for them to help. People like to be part of a new idea, something that's revolutionary, and you can label the readers as members of a group. You can be part of the team. You can help us make a difference. Use you to refer to your readers. And so this can be affecting the way that you're writing your document and how you're going to be using your genre for that specific application. Use the word because to make the argument sounds rational. If we do this, it's because. Admit you were wrong if you were. So if you need to be thinking about that, that's something that can be considered. And rhyme phrases to make them convincing. This can be, if you get a catchy slogan or something like that, that can be something that can be quite helpful. And FaceTime beats email time. And so this is where it definitely is a higher return if you can get in front of those decision makers and talk about this. So how do we do persuasion in high content cultures? High content cultures tend to place more emphasis on community and consensus. And so if you're in this kind of a situation, develop long-term relationships. You can have somebody that they know you, and so you have an idea, it's going to be more likely it's going to go through. So this may mean that you need to have some strategic alliances to help out with that. Use intermediaries to build those relationships. Someone that is a confidant for that decision maker, this would be something that you could be considering. Rely on facts and reasoning. Okay, help them to see your reasoning and the facts that led you to what you're talking about. You don't want to be arguing. This is strongly something you want to avoid. And so you want to be showing yourself as relatively impartial, although you're passionate about the idea. And you want to be striving to reach consensus. There may be some nuance that the decision maker wants to be including as you go. Speak collectively, not individually. You want to be thinking and making sure you're communicating that you want to be part of the team. Be patient and wait for the point. You need to wait for them to finally get that aha moment, and they say that. Remember that, quote, no is rarely used. And so decision makers may not actually use this word, and so you want to be careful. You don't want to be informal. You want to be showing respect and the dignity of the position that person, the decision maker, is in. You want to defer to hierarchy. You may see, I need to review this with my executive board, and you can be inviting. You can say, I would be glad to talk with him if you'd like to go through that in more detail. And finally, minimize emotion. All right, so be factual is what we're trying to deal with there. Thank you very much.